To be a global economic power, Iraq's exchange rate will need to be far different than 1,310. It's just the way it's going to be. They haven't done anything yet. They're hiding things when it comes to that. The currency auctions prior to the beginning of November were averaging around $250 million daily, since November. They've remained elevated about $280 to $300 million daily. They're emptying their coffers of the US dollar, prepping to revalue. The evolution, the ebb and flow of the emotion of Iraq with the citizens concerning this monetary reform has been one moment high, one moment low, one moment high, one moment low. I'm here to tell you it evolved to nothing but high. The citizens of Iraq are so well educated and they know who the enemy is in the same way here in the United States of America. They are supposed to certify the election and Trump as president on Monday. That could be big. Marks, seems like a lot is scheduled to start on the 7th after the certifications on the 6th. Maybe it's a coincidence, and maybe it's not. Between the American hammer and the Iranian anvil, Iraq reshapes its future. Quote, with conflicting reports about Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani's visit to Iran. Emo the 6th going into the 7th will be very interesting for the monetary reform. Al-Sudani receives a special message from Trump, Syria, Iran and the factions. Quote, the source told Shafak news agency that al-Sudani received a message from Donald Trump through a special envoy on an unannounced visit, which included several axes. The source pointed out that the most prominent axes are the necessity of containing and controlling weapons outside the framework of the state, stopping the activity of factions linked to Iran. Meanwhile, a government source, Iraq is working diligently to establish security in the region, and that the Prime Minister will present Iraq's vision in this regard during a visit to Iran. Monetary stabilization mechanism will maintain financial stability in the country. What is that going to be? It's the reinforcement mechanism, it's the new one. It's not the old dollar auction. They're still going to use the dollar and many different foreign currencies. Realize, when Iraq turns their currency on to go international, Iraq is going to be a foreign currency that will be traded on international markets. So when they talk about foreign currencies, think about Iraq being one of them. So when they talk about a basket of currencies, Iraq is going to be one of them within it. Mark as well as many others seem to be confused by the actions of the CBI. The auction/currency window is indeed closed. The reported sales of 1 billion in 4 days is not being done at auction. That was turned over to the banks, which is why they were enabled with international currency exchange platforms. This way, monitoring of all exchange functions is done in real time and not centralized. Scrutiny of participants in exchanges are likewise monitored and vetted in real time. No more fraudulent exchanges for smuggling purposes. Mr. Sami just left my place. He told me, I want you to understand that what we are seeing on TV right now about bringing in the notes, it's like a clean sweep to get the old notes out, the damaged notes back and the counterfeit notes off the street before the rate hits. This will allow all these notes collected to get into the electronic system. Mr. Sami says we are officially Category A currency now. It was Category C which was less desirable. That was required also for the WTO introduction. All these smaller exchange companies that have recently been licensed are now being linked to the big boy exchange companies. That all leads to something big is coming. Frank, yes, something big is coming. A fair amount of people think the auctions have ended. This article right here will crush and destroy that theory. Article, the central bank sells more than $1 billion in just 4 days. This article is very clear. The only changes that have occurred regarding the auctions is they're no longer having or holding cash withdrawal inside the country of Iraq. They're still auctioning off currency abroad to overseas banks, and they may have transitioned to a new financial system. Regardless, the important step in this is that the banking reforms are now getting implemented. That's a critical step to this. Government advisor, the growth rate of non-oil GDP during 2024 is unprecedented. It's great to see non-oil revenues skyrocketing. This will help support the value of the dinar. With the beginning of the new year, the US dollar enters a new phase in Iraq. Wow. This says it all. Yes, Iraq has now moved to normal ways of doing business with the outside world. Iraq had stayed on the currency auctions with the CBI supplying the dollars way too long, 20 years. This was never Dr. Shabibi's plan, but they were forced to due to the newer Obama plan of paying off the war reparations first than moving ahead with the currency reforms, which we have now witnessed aggressive movements in this direction since the beginning of 2023. The executive director of the Azar oil field development project in the city of Ilam, western Iran, Kivanya Ahmadi, announced on Sunday that the Economic Council has approved the development of the second phase of the field, through new oil contracts with an investment of more than $1 billion, expecting that this contract will enter into force before next March. By holding several specialized meetings with representatives of the Planning and Budget Organization and submitting an explanatory report with supporting documents related to the description of the technical work, and the financial estimate for implementing the project, and explaining the objectives of developing the Azar oil field, the Economic Council's approval was finally obtained to develop the second phase of this oil field in the form of new oil contracts with an expected investment of more than $1 billion, Ahmadi said, according to the official Iranian news agency IRNA. It is expected that this will be done with the contractor fulfilling the basic conditions in the contract and the relevant procedures on the part of the employer, and this contract will be implemented and become effective before the end of this year. The Iranian year ends in March, he added. Ahmad pointed out that the dealer and gas and LNG plant, NGL 3100, will be launched in the near future, stressing that the compression and sweetening facilities of the associated gas in the Azar field, which were completed a long time ago, have been inaugurated and are ready to send gas to this plant. He pointed out that based on this, all activities of the first phase of developing this field will be determined and the main milestone, the turning point and main point of the project's progress, will be delivered. The first phase of developing this complex plant will reach its goal by achieving all contractual objectives and sharing the Iranian share of more than 70%, which led to the production of 83 million barrels of oil and revenues of nearly $6 billion. The Azar field is located in the discovered block Anaran, 25 kilometers from the city of Meran, near the Iranian-Iraqi border, and is considered one of the most complex fields in Iran. The reserves of this field amount to 2,500 million barrels of crude oil, and the amount of oil that can be extracted from it is estimated at 400 million barrels. The Iranian government had previously announced that the rate of oil production from the Azar oil